Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Rest is Lean,
Oh dear.
your regular podcast all about things OPEX, change, lean, strategy, leadership, whatever we feel like rambling about at the moment. So, my name's John D, and like my friends, I vaguely call myself a lean professional. We've
Ah,
got Russell, say hi, Russell,
hi, Russell.
and we've got Alan, say hi, Alan.
Hello, Alan.
That's superb. So, Russell Watkins and Alan Lothian here joining as always. So, we'll kick off with a quick little bit of what we've been up to.
Oh, by the
I'll
way,
go
John,
first. I'll go first. I can't set no
good to have you
expectations.
back, by the way. Glad to see you can make an effort this time. Well done.
Well, I'm still in my pajamas, as you can see. So,
Hang on, was John missing last time? I
Oh,
can't say
no.
I noticed.
I can't, no, I didn't notice actually. We're having such a whale of a time, weren't we, Ross?
I
Remember?
wanted
And
to edit
John,
myself in, but I couldn't work out how to do it.
Yeah.
and
Anyway.
John, a fashion tip. This could be a new segment. I'd go stripes, not hoops.
It's more slimming, isn't it, if you go vertical?
I didn't. You said it. You said it, fella.
Right, so what have I been up to? A little bit of materials writing for a client. They're trying to build their own, what you and I would all call the common approach. So their own suite of tools, sort of tailored to themselves. So I'm just doing a little bit of writing for them, and mainly tinkering around at home, which is my happy place. And my real lean exercises are confined to organising my garage at the moment, rearranging,
Nice.
loving it, happy days.
I've seen
What
the
about
size.
you, Al?
I've seen the size of your garage, John. It's massive. That's an undertaking.
Thank you very
I
much.
know. It's a
I didn't know you'd noticed.
huge. I've been doing so. I've got invited to talk around a new collaboration within the rail industry, which, to be fair, is not an industry I've spent a huge amount of time with.
Mhm.
Okay. But like with everything that we do, what gets you up in the morning is being able to apply what we've learned over the years and hone it in with different teams,
Yeah,
different organizations, different industries. So yeah, it's a European collaboration effort. And they've asked 3A if we would get involved and support from a lean and theory of constraints perspective. So yeah, so
Great.
working on that one. And the second thing is to do with the podcast, and we won't give too much away, but won't give too much away at this stage to our listeners. But yeah, trying to get some interesting content, shall we say, for future episodes.
what are you trying to say, Al? We're right here.
Yeah,
Somewhat.
yeah. He was chirping
Oh,
about biscuits earlier. Um, I'm wondering if he's managed to book Elon Musk or something. Um,
well, not quite,
so
not yet. That's next year.
So yeah, I've been as ever skipping around from company to company, just doing some stuff in cushions and pillows, but primarily in relation to the pod. And I think about you guys a lot. Um, uh, when we had the episode, I think a couple of episodes ago about can you do too much lean, it got me thinking, and I stumbled across something, I remembered something, and then I had a serious thought. So I'll give you it in that order.
Right.
The thing I stumbled across first was a piece of news, and it was from Vietnam. And part of lean is all about achieving more with fewer resources. So therefore, you get into sustainability and recycling. Well, police in Vietnam have made an alarming discovery. A factory where about 345,000 used condoms were being recycled and repackaged as new. The 34-year-old owner of the factory near Ho Chi Minh City said she bought the old condoms in bulk off a middleman, then washed and reshaped them before packing them in plastic sacks for resale. Now, this is good recycling. It is good use of the planet's finite resources, but you can be too much. You can do too much lean. That's not, I would argue, the
I
market for that
I would say
small.
just stop
Yeah.
too much.
The second one is
Have you got the address, by the way, Russ?
the second one is
He loves a
think
bargain.
thinking about too much lean. I got back to thinking about Narcos, then the Netflix series. Have you ever
Yeah.
seen
Yes,
Narcos?
yes, yes. They watched a brilliant film, a brilliant series. Eh?
So season one, episode one, and they're in the jungles of Peru looking at a cocaine resin small factory. And the fellow who runs it says at one point, "My factory is small but very productive." And he goes on to point out how he uses children with their small feet to crush up the leaves, and has a beautiful old fully depreciated press to mold it into blocks for selling on. Now, once again, lean thinking there. I don't think it's a good application of lean. So you can do too much lean in that sense. Then the third one, I started to think seriously. And a couple of years ago, I wrote an article about our fascination with time in lean.
Yeah.
And Al, you'll remember one of Mick's favorite phrases was always "time is a shadow of motion." And if you want to make something go faster, don't make it go faster. Just take away whatever casts a shadow. Well, I got to thinking about Zara. And Zara, the fast fashion group, they do, rather than having 3 or 4 seasons a year, they have 20 seasons a year because they've collapsed the lead times to design and develop new collections so much that they are freshening up the stuff that's in the shop very often. In a pure lean sense, they're doing very lean stuff because they are collapsing lead time. That's at our hearts here.
Mm.
But they are consuming the planet's resources and a huge amount of water and creating pollution for clothes that are used as disposable items to end up in charity shops. They're just whipping that consumption wheel faster.
Yeah.
Good point.
I concluded you can do too much lean. And my final thought was back to Amazon. The greatest trick Amazon ever pulled was convincing us that there isn't a lead time to buy stuff. Because if you can buy stuff the next day, you cease to respect the supply chain and the natural lead time and effort that goes into things.
Yeah. Stops you also from considering buying local on the grounds that everything is available. So where's the benefit to me for that decision as well? Yeah, it's
You live in the middle of nowhere, don't you, John?
yes, I do. If I wanted a delivery from Asda, it would take longer than it takes Amazon to deliver.
All the supermarkets are readily available as well.
Yeah.
Do Amazon deliver turnips and pigs?
Oh,
But John, it's a serious point. Should we choose who we work with? There's a risk of straying into politics here, so I'm not going to. But I was offered a piece of work in the Middle East in a certain country early this year that I shied away from. And thinking locally, should we as lean professionals be selective in who we choose to work with, or is that off the beam?
it's interesting, isn't it? Because I've turned down some pretty lucrative work from one very specific, well-known client, but I turned down out of hand just because I didn't want to work with them, and that's about my prejudices. So, is that actually, good morals for I've got, or is it about I don't care if they're wrong. I want to preserve my barriers. But I've also walked away from potentially very lucrative and interesting work because I didn't believe in their approach to safety, which I feel is completely sound. But I don't think I ever walked away from something because too much lean, that's
No.
for sure. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a very interesting thing.
It is. How about you, Alan? Are you selective at all about who you'll work
I
with?
think in terms of obviously ethical backgrounds, then absolutely of some consideration. I have turned down a piece of work because directly the end game was in terms of releasing heads.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I mean, that's a red flag
I
normally.
fundamentally disagree with that, as I'm
Yeah.
sure many others do.
But even if you didn't fundamentally disagree with it, I think it's also a clue if that's the approach.
Yeah.
But you're probably not going to cover yourself in glory. It's not going to go well and it's not going to stick.
Yeah, well, when
Yeah.
they're saying to you, well, we don't want you to come in and say it's all about making more with what you've got. We're being openly frank to our workforce, so this is to decide how many we can get rid of.
Mm.
And I just said,
No.
thanks very much, find somebody else.
And of course, that sort of
Yeah.
thing genuinely has to happen in some companies because the things they're selling, they can only sell to a diminishing number of people. Some companies shrink,
Diversify then, John.
and it is a managed shrinkage because of a market or because they're going out, and they're going to do it as gloriously and beautifully as they can. I've helped a couple of companies to manage their decline, if you like.
Mm.
And that's, almost I can get involved and make it as good for everybody as possible.
Mm-hmm.
That's quite rewarding, and you can play it off. So there are times when shrinking the headcount, making it possible to continue with less headcount when maybe the heads can see the writing on the wall and want to get out. Those sorts of things
It's true.
can work.
There is a transparency piece to that, and you can make an argument that the difference between losing 500 jobs and saving 40 jobs is that you
Yeah.
save 40 jobs but there has to be a lot of transparency there, and everybody has to be eyes wide open. Because we all of us were raised, weren't we, from lean children. We were raised as the first thing is nobody loses their job as a direct result of these improvement activities. Because in crude terms, turkeys don't vote for Christmas because people can sniff the air, and they're smart, and they're right to shut up shop if they sniff the air and sniff that coming.
Yeah.
But it does raise an interesting question about red flags. What red flags do we perceive in businesses that say, "Oh, hang on, are they ready to really get into this?" Stuff like if you struggle to get the gaffer on the shop to walk around with you because he can't see the point, or if the person contacting you is middle management and upper management don't want to be involved. Like I said, it's a delegation piece.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I've always taken that upon me as a challenge, and the people who work at 3A, we take it as a challenge to try and convince them. I think that's part of our approach, really, because I think, in fact, Russell, I think you said the last one, it was about there's certain non-negotiables. If we really want to make things stick and make things move, then there's got to be a huge level of input from the leadership, and to be open and honest with them up front about how they may need to change if they really want to make any activities like this a success. Yeah. What we've said at very, very early doors, haven't we? We've said when we go into organizations, maybe for the first time, and we ask, well, why have you brought us in? Why do you want to do this? Okay. Those can be some of the red flags, can't they, in terms of how they respond to such, like, hopefully we all agree, everybody, if they're have to be committed and have to have a willingness to want to change in some way.
Yeah.
The old adage, if you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got, is only going to happen. And it is more difficult if the leadership within that business isn't prepared to change in some way, shape, or form themselves. Have 3A ever turned work down as a result of that? No. I would say we take that upon ourselves to see that as a challenge to try and convince them to change and take them on that journey as well.
I'm with you as well, because we have to be careful, and I've seen this. If you get too up yourself as a lean person, and you start to think that you can mimic some of the Japanese people who trained you, and if you hear an answer that is distasteful for you, you spin on your heel and stroll out.
Yeah.
That is
less impressive when we do it, I think.
Yeah, but it's just not a useful behaviour, because our job is to take where they're at, and if they want to go somewhere but they're just not clear, then we can't expect them to, and they're under the cosh. We can't expect them to commit to. I mean, you have to gamble walk 3 times a day for an hour and wash your hands, and the water has to be dark black after you washed your hands, and you have to start that Monday and do it forever. We have to find a way to say, okay, there is a commitment here, but we'll start with this. Come in, the water's warm, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you must have found this. You do work where you do a good activity, and you have a sense that the business isn't going to spread it far and wide.
No.
in spite of getting a good result.
Yes.
But you know you've upskilled 2 or 3 people and maybe set a fire in somebody.
Yeah.
And that person either there or somewhere else will push the lean community forward. Now,
Yeah.
is that good enough to push the lean community forward?
I got a couple of things that I wouldn't say are red flags. They've certainly not stopped me getting involved, but they're definitely burning flags, as in trouble ahead. Sometimes you are chatting with your prospective customers and you learn that the reason that you're there is they've been told by a very large, very influential client to get somebody involved.
Right.
So there's not necessarily the desire on their side yet. The client thinks there is, but they might be a bully. So that's a strange angle. Why are
Mm.
you personally there in that circumstance? Possibly people have heard that you're cheap, or people have heard that you are low impact on them. So,
Right. Okay.
you know,
So they can tick the box and
oh,
come out
they'd love a big
unscathed.
impact bottom line, but as long as you didn't have to actually mess too much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think that's a burning flag that, oh, we've been told to. It
Yeah.
might work out beautifully, but typically there's a lot of maneuvering to be done to get that business into a good place to embrace
Mhm.
Yeah.
change. And that'll be one for me. Um, and this one's two sides of the same sword type thing. Funded activities.
Mm.
Yeah, so if there's, oh, we're doing this, John, because we've got a government grant. Well, that
Yeah.
might be great. That might be, we wanted to do this amazing thing. We want to try and do the same work in half the space so that we can redevelop half of our factory. And we've got this grant, which means we can afford to get some external help in and blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. That could be fantastic. On the other side of the coin, we heard about this grant. We can have
Yeah.
all of this money. We're obliged to train our people. This way, we could do something quite useful, we think, and we ain't got to pay for it. So if it doesn't matter, if it doesn't
Yeah.
work,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter.
That's the one that's problematic because they've got no skin in the game.
No, there's no
Monetary
downside
skin.
to
Yeah.
lack of success,
Yeah.
which
But
is
but
ironically why sometimes it's good to be. I'm not, by the way, an expensive consultant because
yeah.
you know you will get their attention on the days that you're there.
Yeah.
People saying,
Yeah.
"Do you know how dear he is? Suck all the information out and act on it."
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think they're
It's
burning flags rather than red flags.
it's interesting because that you characterize that last one spot on, John. Just because it's free doesn't mean it's problematic, but it's likely to be. So I do no sheep dip, and I've done no funded stuff
Mm,
for the last 15 years, bar one.
mm,
And I've just had another one which is being funded by Made Smarter. Um, and I've done it because it's a client I've known for a long time who have wanted to work for a long time, and they're a good company. Um, but they wanted some support to do the breadth of activity they wanted to do.
mm,
And it was just a little bit too much for them. So they wanted some contribution towards it. So
mm,
they've still got skin in the game and they want to act on it, but they just want to make it more affordable for them. And that's absolutely cock on. I got
mm.
that makes sense. Because
I-
I think
go
funded
on.
training can very often work. I think funded change
Yeah.
See,
doesn't
it's
often
interesting. I
work.
look at it. I'd look maybe to me. I look at it slightly differently. Um, Go very quickly. What you said, Ross, about your previous assignments. I think the subtle difference there is you knew the client beforehand, so you sort of
Yeah.
knew what you were walking into, and you trusted that
I
client.
knew I
Therefore,
knew they were serious.
exactly, there's a pros and cons to it, and the pros far outweigh the negatives in that one. Maybe I'm a little bit too pure. So I'm thinking sometimes is look, I've taken work on which has been wholeheartedly funded. But for me personally, I always see that as just as a challenge. Okay, yeah, Is there a danger it falls into a sheep dip approach? Yes, there is. But I'm a great believer that that is dependent on you when you're there. If they want you to go in there and you decide, if I decide to go down a sheep dip approach, then that's my own doing. Okay. But that's part of what I find as a challenge when I go into different clients is say, look, at the end of the day, what's my vision? What's my end game? In an ideal scenario, I want to walk away with the perfectly aligned, sustainable activity that it was. Now, you and I both know the reality of that may not be the case. Okay, and a lot of them aren't. All right, and part of it is the funded aspect of it. All right, but I just see that as a challenge. Is how can I go into that client, learn from them in terms of how do I need to adapt and alter the way I approach what we're good at to hopefully try and convince them, or at the very least, back to Russell's point earlier on, is have you left a spark and a fire in one or two people on that shop floor? It may not necessarily be the MD of that company, or the ops manager or whoever it may be. But there might be Rod, Jane, and Freddie on the shop floor who have really, really enjoyed that time, and hopefully will take something away either in the business that they stay in, or will help them in their respective vocations in the future. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think we have to have a look at the positives and understand why we're there sometimes. You guys both know, to have long-term sustainable change, you're not going to do it in a short term, like a masterclass, for example. The chances of that happening are negligible, shall we say. All right. But nevertheless, it's a challenge. For me, that's what I take on board is the challenge sometimes. I have got in the sorry, John, I was going to say I have been in that situation you mentioned earlier on where you sit in a room and you think, why the pig in hell am I sat here? Because do you know what I mean? But like you say, to walk out is doesn't help anybody.
Well, but you learn to avoid that, don't you? It's like if you're going on a date, you have an idea that there'll be some attraction, and there'll be something in there that is useful for both of you. So you're qualifying of look, I'll be flexible, I can work around shifts, I can bridge shifts, but I'm going to need your people, and I'm going to need them for more than half an hour at a time. And when they're with me on the Gemba, they're with me, unless Rome is burning. They're with me, so please factor that in, and that's the way we operate, because that's what gets a good result from your perspective. But then not everybody wants long-term help. One of the jobs I did recently, which was 10 days over 3 months, was helping an engineering business who are smart, overthinking. They're extreme project managers, and they want to plan everything but execute nothing. So my job was to show them how to plan more practically, improve the way something works, and actually do it, and help them learn a way and a cadence to be less complicated and hold their own feet to the fire to get stuff done.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
And the gaffer was in the room, and he took it on board, and the change agent was there, and they're like, oh, okay, so we'll slim this bit down, we'll do that. And we need to bias more on action rather than what we like, which is program management. And that's a perfectly good one-off intervention, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. When you have returning ones, and I say I've had an instance whereby I've worked with a client and I've walked away, and it's not been the most sustainable of activities, granted. Okay. And you have walked away thinking, has the MD really got it? No, they haven't. All right. But again, that's not always a failure. And the reason why I say that is in this particular example, it was about 8 to 10 years afterwards. And the MD actually approached me again and said, I was wrong. I've realised now that how we can make a difference. Can you come back and help us again?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And that's with no coercion, no talking to, no contact with them whatsoever. So obviously there are times where you can go away, and thankfully in that instance, that MD was reflecting on it and was willing to come back and ask us again, which was a good thing.
I think we all probably played the relatively long game in that lean isn't just a way we've found of making money. It's something we believe in. It's a religion for us all.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, even in the basket case companies that I've worked with, where I know they've had no benefit from spending a lot of money or a lot of time on some of the activities that I did 20 years ago. And I've even gone as far as sort of writing off, to Alan's point, a manager or the MD or whatever,
Yes.
even the guy that hired me, say, oh, you're never going to do any good. And sometimes I've been right, but I could definitely make you an A4 list of Bert and Ernie who used to work at the company that was a disaster and didn't take anything on. And they've approached me 15 years later when they're, I don't know, managers in a new production outfit and said, John, I don't know if you remember, but once upon a time you used to tell us stories about being abused by a Japanese fella. We loved them. And I remember what you said about line balance, and it stuck with me today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, could you come and help with our outfit? And you think it worked. It
It does.
just it wasn't
Exactly.
visible at the time.
Exactly. Well, exactly the same for me, John. I have written people off and said, "No, as long as I draw breath, they're never going to take this stuff on." And then they've gone and surprised me, which goes to show you how much I know. And I think that's a combination of factors. Probably, I think some of it is sometimes we're just not ready, and other times we not we're just not ready. They're just not ready. They need to go on a different journey for a while and try stuff out to work out what does and doesn't work for them. And then other times, I think we're just not good enough at working out what will blow that person's hair back.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
That's it.
We're not that good. We're
How to
not that
tweak the
good.
formula in a particular client or a
Yeah,
different person. That's it. Like I said, we've said before, it's a model, not a script.
yeah.
You can't apply the same step
But
by step in every
you
business
can't
work. You can't do that.
cock on now. It's a model, not a script. And also, we are plagued by our own biases, our own confirmation
Correct.
biases. So, um, in the same way, there are people walking this planet who don't like me because not, and they've never met me because I look like somebody who bullied them at school once.
Yeah.
Now, I can't do anything about that.
Mhm.
That is a mechanism in their head where somebody takes against somebody else, or they just don't warm to them because they might resemble somebody who wasn't very nice to them years ago.
Mhm.
And in the same way, we are pattern recognition creatures. The great gift of our job is we get to go into several hundred factories over our lean lifetimes, and we get to see lots of patterns. And if we're smart and we respect that, then we synthesize and we think about those patterns, and we appreciate that. Ah, memory is unreliable. And if we just take that and start to copy and paste, you look a bit like this, ergo that solution's going to work here. You look a bit like this one, that's going to work there. And it ain't that way.
Exactly.
You
Exactly right.
can't see enough patterns.
Exactly right. And
To this day, just because of my age, if I told I'm going to work with somebody called, excuses to anybody who is called this, called Hamble,
Right.
I'm of a certain age, my brain goes back to play school and the freaky doll that was on there that haunted my dreams. And I go, I'm sure I could work with anybody, but if Hamble's busy,
He was the shopkeeper, Mr. Bent. He used to scare living daylights out of me. He just
Yeah.
pops up everywhere, didn't
He did, but he got around a bit.
he? He did get around a bit. Aye, aye.
that was a rumor.
Now, gents, to pull this to a close, would you like the saying of the week?
I'd
Yeah, go
love
for
to
it.
know what the saying of the week is.
All right. So the saying of the week is, and I've forgotten about this, but I used to use it a lot. A frog in a well knows not the ocean, and it's relevant because
This is going to
we.
be good.
It's relevant because we sometimes forget this. Because we've seen the Toyotas, we've been around the Toyotas, we've been around good lean companies, and we've
Yeah.
walked around them, we've worked in them, and been a part of the system of lean. We assume that people will buy what we're selling. But for a lot of people who have never been outside their business, it's a leap of faith to go into this lean stuff. And so I've been guilty of this. Early on in a long term intervention, it's useful to get the frog out of the well and into the ocean
Mm.
to rather than try to explain to them how bright the future could be, just show them somebody who is similar enough but non-competitive so they can see it in action.
Yeah.
And then your words are minimized and the frog gets to look at the ocean. Ah, I see. That could work for us. That could work for us. So the purpose for raising that today is if you're attempting a lean transformation, get people out to see something that is relevant, that's better than you, because it will make it a whole lot easier to get them involved in trying stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So we're going to wrap this one up, folks. We thank you very much for listening in or watching in. If you're doing so on YouTube, please keep your comments coming. And Russ, where should they send any emails that they've got for interesting questions?
Right. I wrote this down. Got it. Why is Al in denial at gmail.com?
It's not the one I thought you were going to say before we started this pod. You chickened out there, mate.
I chickened out
I'll
because,
just give Al the
because there's
chance to
filters
give
and
an
stuff.
alternate email address. We're not going to explain that one.
You can have my one on the next episode, but I'll give you the proper one. It's
Okay.
therestislean@gmail.com.
Thanks very much. And thank you very much to Russell and to Alan. And we will all see you again on the next The Rest is Lean. Bye.
Pleasure. Thank you, gents.
See you guys. Be good.